Hey guys, what it do? It's your boy Supreme Uchiha the God, and today we're talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So obviously spoilers alert, right? So Dio Brando's hatred, man, that's kind of the main focus of this video. You see, he hates Jonathan Joestar, right? It's one of the most poisonous and personal rivalries in manga history, rooted in pure envy, pride, and unrelenting hunger for power. The seeds of this animosity were sown long before Dio ever even set foot in the Joestar mansion. You see, in the miserable shadow of his own father, Dio Brando is the father's name. Dio was an abusive, alcoholic wreck of a man who offered Dio nothing but squalor, pain, and the bitter taste of poverty. His death, rather than breaking Dio, liberated him. In fact, Dio did not mourn. Instead, he poisoned Dario in the first place and used the moment to begin his ascent. He's the one that killed his own father. He knew his father was obsessed with alcohol. So he bought the medicine as poison. Father wouldn't take that shit because his father was a bit ill. But I think the illness was because Dio was already poisoning his alcohol. He knew this man's gonna drink, so he just put some poison in his alcohol, bro. You know what I'm saying? Armed with a letter from his dying father and a rootless will, as well as a promise by Mr. Joestar, he entered the Joestar household with a singular goal: to take everything from them. From the moment he arrived, Dio sought to dismantle Jonathan's life. He masked his intentions with civility and manipulation, quickly worming his way into the good graces of George Joestar, that's Jonathan's father. His goal was clear: to replace Jonathan as the heir of the Joestar legacy, because he came from poverty, but Jonathan came from riches. But for that to happen, Dio knew he had to break Jonathan, not just socially or emotionally, but spiritually. He became a parasite within the Joestar home, exploiting George's kindness and turning every opportunity into a psychological strike against Jonathan. Dio's tactics were cruel and calculated. He harassed Jonathan, humiliated him in public, and took great pleasure in undermining his confidence. But his worst acts weren't loud or flashy. They were intimate, personal. One of the first signs of his true malice was the killing of Danny, Jonathan's beloved dog. Danny was burned alive in the incinerator. Imagine somebody, your adopted brother, comes into your life, makes a mockery of you, beats you up, spits on you, shames you, makes you look bad in front of your own goddamn parent. And then he burns your dog alive. A cruel and symbolic act meant to show Jonathan that nothing he loved was safe. And the thing is, Jonathan had no proof for none of this shit. This guy was so sneaky. Jonathan didn't know how to even approach it. He didn't want to even tell his dad what was happening. It wasn't enough to fight Jonathan. Dio wanted to corrupt and consume everything Jonathan held dear. This man was diabolical, beyond belief diabolical. He also tried to sever Jonathan's relationship with Arena, going so far as to forcefully kiss her and mock her innocence. But she's a real diehard because she tried to wash her mouth with soul water. So she said, it's better for me to have soul water in my mouth than to have kissed you. And we know this man's pride, but he couldn't even accept that. So he lost his composure and smacked her. And he was like, I can't believe that a mere woman made me lose my composure. This is how highly Dio thought of himself. He really thought himself beyond humanity. He thought himself above everybody from the jump. He just believed himself to be a superior being. He couldn't believe that a woman saw his kiss as despicable. In fact, he thought she would love me immediately over Jonathan after my kiss, and thus not only that, he thought they could never, ever get back together and the relationship could never move forward because I took her first kiss from him. I did that. It's crazy. because to Dio it wasn't just a kiss, it was a declaration of war, a way of saying, I own what you love. Every action was layered in control, domination, and an attempt to strip Jonathan of identity and joy. As time passed, Dio's manipulations deepened. He attempted to poison George Joestar, the father that had adopted him, seeking to accelerate his inheritance. And he waited, 7 years. He waited 7 years, faking to be Jonathan's brother and friend, and acting as if none of those despicable acts he did ever occurred. He showcased to the world that this guy, Jonathan, is my best friend. He's my brother. They won rugby games together. They dominated. They ruled the school together. He held in that hatred to awake because he started to realize that breaking Jonathan just wasn't gonna happen. So he changed his plan. He said, okay, instead of inheriting this will normally, I'ma just wait until I'm of age. Until I'm of age to take over the Joestar mansion and the Joestar money, baby. And thus, he waited 7 years before attempting to poison George, because then 7 years later he was of age that he could inherit everything. Jonathan, however, uncovered the plot and confronted Dio, because throughout those 7 years, Jonathan just did not believe it. He could not believe it. He could not accept it. He just knew that Dio was hiding something, because this man killed his dog. This man kissed his lover. This sparked the first of many clashes. At this point, Dio's facade began to crack once again. The victim act, the false air routine, all of it began to collapse under the weight of his unfiltered hatred. His envy for Jonathan, for his strength, for his noble spirit grew unbearable. He could no longer hide behind manipulation. His true self emerged, vile, arrogant, and consumed by a need not just to win, but to destroy. The turning point was the stone mask, an artifact Dio discovered that could transform humans into vampires. It became his obsession, and he discovered it while getting his ass handed to him by Jonathan. Where Jonathan inherited the Joestar legacy, Dio sought to carve out his own twisted immortality. After he was cornered and exposed, Dio used the mask and became something no longer human. He attacked George Joestar and turned against the family that had taken him in, killing George in cold blood. Well, he was actually trying to kill Jonathan, but George jumped in the way to protect Jonathan. It was never about survival. It was always about domination. He wanted to dominate Jonathan. But Jonathan was one step ahead. Even as a vampire, Dio could not shake his fixation with Jonathan. He had been transformed into something godlike, but still, instead of going away and starting his own legacy, he had to take it from Jonathan. Jonathan haunted him. Every scheme he enacted, every bloodthirsty plot was inevitably met by Jonathan's resilience. When Dio sent Jack the Reaper and other horrors to kill him, Jonathan grew only stronger. When he killed Jonathan's master, Zeppeli, I'm sorry, I read manga, so this pronunciation, you're gonna have to forgive me. Zeppeli, he thought he had struck a decisive blow. Instead, Zeppeli's death and final energy transfer made Jonathan even more powerful, sealing Dio's fate in the long run. Dio's pettiness and ego, his downfall. He believed himself invincible, above consequence. He underestimated Jonathan time and time again, thinking that his newfound vampirism made him untouchable. He taunted, flaunted his power, and let his pride blind him. Even as Jonathan bled, broken and weary, he never gave up. The final confrontation aboard the burning ship was a culmination of years of hatred and trauma. Dio, now a decapitated head, still clung to belief that he could win. Even in death, he tried to steal Jonathan's body, to become him in the most literal sense, as if that would finally complete his conquest, that would finally make him the perfect specimen that he sought to become. Dio, at that moment, respected Jonathan because he said to his disciple, "Don't you dare disrespect this man, because this man left me in this form." The same man that left him burned initially to a crisp, to a point it took him years to heal. And that's when Jonathan had no powers, just pure sheer will power. And yet again, even as Dio became this invincible, unstoppable phenom, it was not enough, because Jonathan once again was able to nearly kill him. And so finally, hatred turned to respect and admiration. He no longer seek to destroy Jonathan, he seek to become him, to be one with him. He saw Jonathan as near perfect as there was, and he thought that with him and Jonathan combined as body and mind, he would finally be the ruler of the world and gain his place as the king of all living being. But see, Jonathan, ever the noble heart, even in death, held Dio close, not to forgive him, not to acknowledge him, but to contain him as the ship exploded and sank into the ocean. The two perished together, two adopted brothers, one fueled by love and the other by loathing, died locked in a final fatal embrace. It was not just the end of a battle, it was the death of a curse. A death dictated not by fate, but by Jonathan Joestar's unwavering soul. In the end, Dio's hatred defined him, it shaped him, it molded him, and it also destroyed him. His life was one long act of vengeance against a boy who only ever wanted a brother, except a boy who never initially sought vengeance, but was forced to become a vengeful soul. And that vengeance turned to peace, and that peace was the death of Dio. It's been your boy, Supreme Uchiha the God. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.